Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Michael and Benjamin's podcast. We are here in the tiny room. As always, I am your co-host, Michael of Michael and Benjamin, and I am joined by Benjamin, but he... Hold on, I had a funny thing to say about how he was a racist like Roseanne Barr. Ben! Say hello, Ben.
Hello, Ben. I'm not a racist like Roseanne Barr, by the way.
Yeah, I know, but it was just a humorous lead-in.
Oh, you nailed it.
Yeah,
you did very well.
Look, new media professionals. Ben, I didn't say. Well, you're not a racist like Roseanne Barr. You're Roisin.
Roisin Barr.
Roisin O'Barr, the Irish Colleen version of Roseanne Barr. You are racist, unlike Roseanne Barr. You're a different type of racist.
I'm what's called an ignorant racist. There's no malice. I'm just pure thick.
Sometimes you say a mistake.
Sometimes I say a mistake. What do you do for a living, Michael?
I don't know. I've lost track of speaking words and whatnot.
Oh, the old speaker. You don't sprack in the English so good anymore, huh?
No, I don't. Benjamin.
Yes.
Ben.
Yes.
Occasionally we have a tweet.
Yes.
Well, this week we had a tweet.
Ooh. From who?
From our good real life and internet friend. We won't say his real name, but his Twitter handle is Ben Glennett.
Ben Glennett, eh?
It's Glenn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ben, what Glenn wants to know, and I have an advantage, Ben, because I know the question because I've already read it, but you don't. So this will be interesting to see what you think.
Okay.
And
exciting.
He says at Mick and Ben. That's our Twitter handle.
That's us.
That's us. Yeah. At Mick and Ben. Do you prefer Phoenix as Jean Grey's hidden potential, or as a cosmic entity that possesses her?
Yeah. So this is a really interesting. That's a great question. And I think, generally speaking, it's been handled very differently.
Glenn has all the best questions, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's a pretty solid question. Personally, I prefer her as potential. As Omega mutant. Omega?
I don't know. I say Omega.
Okay, I'm going to say Omega then. As Omega mutant Jean Grey, simply because it's a bit more manageable. I don't like Cosmic Entity Phoenix because it's too bloody powerful to have running around, really, isn't it?
Gotcha. It depends. It depends what context you're putting her in. If you're dealing with a cosmic entity type story where she's facing off against Thors and Galactuses, and
then she needs to be a cosmic entity. But generally speaking, I like with the end song. The one I remember reading where I got my first proper introduction to the Dark Phoenix version of Jean Grey was End Song. It was that very airbrushed kind of style comic where she was resurrected from the dead by the Phoenix Force again, and she came back, but then she only lasted that small mini run issue, and Wolverine had to bloody do his job again and wander on in and gut her like a fish.
And then that's the cry wank.
He does that a lot. I'd say, do you know what? I'd say Wolverine cry wanks himself to sleep quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'd say Wolverine has an L pity tug every goddamn evening.
Pretty much.
Yeah. But generally speaking, she's a more interesting character when it's the untapped potential, and they kind of played with that in the Ultimate Universe in 6-1. Is it 6-1? I can't remember.
No, 616 is the normal universe.
616 is normal.
It was like 19,909. Oh no, that's the sin. I don't know, Ben. I can't remember.
Doesn't matter. Ultimate Universe is what we're going to call it. I think they played with that early on in the Ultimates run, and then obviously that lost the run of itself.
Very good. Very good.
As it went along, and Kirkman turned her into a cosmic entity again.
Yeah, well, Kirkman no good at handling other people's properties.
Kirkman. But yeah, that was very internet referential. But yeah, from a character point of view, she's way more interesting as untapped potential Jean Grey.
Both movies have taken that tact.
I think you kind of have to. Like the X-Men universe in the original X-Men version, was she a cosmic entity in Apocalypse?
No,
she wasn't.
Untapped potential.
She's just untapped potential. It's just more interesting. It makes her more of a threat as well. Also, it kicks the crap out of all that crappy Phoenix Force crap that you have to deal with, where the Phoenix chooses a lot of craps in one sentence. No, but Phoenix Force chooses a new host. It's an underlying threat. Sometimes it chooses Scott to be its host. Like,
what you're saying is get out of here.
yeah. Oh no, I mean, it's interesting. The cosmic entity is interesting in some aspects. I remember the End Song saga again being a particularly interesting one, where it suffers from like a really strange form of entropy, where it's always seeking heat, and that's why it loves Scott so much. It has a thing for Scott as well.
Sexy hot man.
Yeah, once he that's not quite it. But when he opens his eyes and the owl eye beams come out, they're apparently very hot in that version of the X-Men comic. Apparently,
I thought they were generally cold.
That's what I mean. In the X-Men comics, it depends on. But you see, this is another interpretation thing. Sometimes his beams are super hot. Sometimes his beams are concussive, like
stupid Kirkman.
Stupid Kirkman. And then sometimes his eyes are actually portals to another dimension filled with that energy, and it's
that's where it comes from. That's where the energy comes from.
That's bloody weird.
But sometimes it's solar power. Ben, also, just from a lady empowerment issue, it's kind of, isn't it more interesting for her to have her own hidden power than something else? If something comes along and possesses her, she's just a victim again.
Well, she's white knighted. Yeah, she's just along for the ride.
She's just classic old Jean Grey, who can more or less move the Blackbird with her mind, but then faints.
Yeah, fuck that.
Your classic Stan Lee female fainter.
Well, you have to have an female faint to show that they've really, really tried this round.
She's she's probably in the top 5 female fainters, isn't she? It's her.
Oh, she did it quite
Storm.
a bit. Yeah. Oh, Sue Storm was a classic fainter.
Scarlet Witch.
Little known fact about Sue Storm: Ben Grimm used to have to follow her around with a pillow, and he'd just prop it under her in comics. You can see it in the side panels every once in a while.
For when she fainted.
That was
any other female fainters?
I don't think Wonder Woman faints very often. I think she
used to get tied up a lot.
Anti-faint. Yeah, she was more of a bondage girl. Bit more anti-faint in her case. I don't know. Are there any other big fainters in comics?
I can't think of any. Probably any sort of female character who had some sort of vague, non-physical power that Stan Lee invented was probably a fainter.
Yeah, I suppose. Speaking of bloody Ultimates universe, I went back and read the Cable run on the Ultimate X-Men universe. This is in a bit of a Cable mood. Mm-hmm. That's exactly where they get all their inspiration for Josh Brolin Cable.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, because he is undefined as a mutant because... Okay, spoilers for a comic that came out 8 years ago.
More.
More maybe. The Cable in the Ultimate Universe is actually Wolverine.
Ben, why didn't I know that?
It's a depowered...
What?
Yeah, it's a depowered Wolverine. That's what he is, and he's mutant ability free, but he uses technology to augment all the abilities that Cable traditionally has.
Interesting.
So I went back and read this and realized that's exactly the tack that they took with Brolin Cable. Brable. He's very much technology based because he takes out all the X-Men using technology in the Ultimate Run.
That's very interesting. Was that a Robert Kirkman?
That was a Kirkman.
Of course it was.
Yeah, because he likes that. So yeah, Cable actually had his arm, or Wolverine had his healing factor taken away from him by Apocalypse and had his arm ripped off, which is why he has the new arm.
Very interesting.
And he doesn't have any powers of the super variety.
What a fresh take.
I thought it was quite interesting. It's a nice reveal because he fights himself, and then the only time he pops his claws, because he can still pop his claws because they're not a superpower, they're built into him.
Okay.
And he still pops his claws, and the only time he pops his claws is when he's fighting Wolverine himself.
Very interesting.
And they have a little scrappy dappy do. It's cool.
Benjamin, speaking of things that may or may not be a fresh take on things,
go on.
Did you squeeze in any chances to see Solo the movie?
I think we both know the answer to that one, Michael, and that's no.
It's probably a no. Neither have I, Ben, interestingly, and neither have the vast majority of my Star Wars liking friends.
Is this the spin-off that broke the camel's back?
I think it is, Ben. Do you want to talk box office, Ben?
Go on, let's see. Michael, you know that I'm not all that interested in box office, but you're nearly leaping out of your chair with delight. So go on, hit me with some stats.
Well, how much would you say a Solo cost to make, let's say, Ben? Just pick a number, Ben.
Oh, I'd say it was hefty. It's got Disney money, doesn't it?
It was bloody $250 million.
Fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly because they had to make it twice, basically, because they didn't like the first directors. That's not an exaggeration. So it looks like it's only going to make about 450.
Well, that's a poor return on investment.
It's not a return on investment, Ben. It's a loss when you factor in marketing,
all that stuff.
Distribution. Real bad. And the interesting thing is watching the internet explode over this, because unfortunately, Ben, we live in a world where even comic book films have become politicized, but the right, the alt-right, are blaming the lack of success on feminism.
Oh, for fuck's
whereas
sake.
the social justice, the alt-left, they are saying that nobody wants to see movies about white men anymore. And this proves it. I know, it's great, isn't it?
But hang on. First of all, very much vehemently anti-alt-right. They can go fuck themselves. So before I get aligned with that a little bit down the line, nobody wants to see movies with white men in it. This is the thing I don't get about social justice. At what point did we all become mini Hitlers because I'm white? Like, I don't get that. Like,
Ben, I can see the swastika you've drawn on your forehead before the podcast.
Okay, so admittedly, I am a Nazi, and probably not the best example.
I don't know what sort of weird Nazi sex games were going on before you turned on your webcam, but you don't have a leg to stand on.
So, when I'm not being a Nazi...
I should probably stop calling you a racist on the podcast before it catches on.
So I'm going to be SJ dubbed eventually. They're going to get me eventually. I find it interesting that they're so readily, want to leap on the fact that nobody wants to see movies with white men in it anymore. I think any successful Marvel movie outside of Black Panther would vehemently disagree with that. I would think that fucking Deadpool, which has done better than anyone expected yet again and broke a bunch of box office.
Probably better than Solo, despite being R-rated.
Yeah, and I don't remember that starring a female, ethnically diverse lead. Do you?
No, Ben, I don't. Let's not get too much into it, though, because we don't have infinite time. What I think is nobody wanted to see a Han Solo prequel.
I don't think anybody gave a fuck about a Han Solo prequel.
Yeah, who cares?
It's also it's exceptionally hard to be invested in a story where you know the ending.
Well, people went and saw the prequels, the original 3 prequels, in droves.
Yeah, because there were gaps in all the knowledge, but you've now seen Han Solo from when he was really fucking cool in the original trilogy to when he had his bloody shitty demise in... Yeah,
his doddery old racist demise.
Which was just boring. It was a really crappy...
Ben, stop that
fucking
now.
solos and fridges, eh? Solos and fridges.
Here's the thing, though. There's not a lot to fill in with Han Solo. It's basically like, here's the story of how he got his ship, and here's the story about how he got his jacket, and here's the story about how he got his haircut, and here's the story...
But does anybody care, like?
Well, apparently not.
Excellent.
But I could have told you that before you went and made a $250 million movie, Ben.
Why didn't you, Michael?
I think we did, Ben. I think we said on this podcast, who cares about a Solo prequel movie?
I think we did say that. To be fair, that was one of our leading topics. One of the weeks.
Here's another interesting thing, Ben, which wasn't in our week's production notes, but I've just remembered it.
Go on.
The Bumblebee movie is currently undergoing reshoots, based on test audience reactions.
So sorry, Bumblebee,
Transformers, Bumblebee.
Okay, he's getting his own movie.
It's out in December.
I didn't know that.
It looks like it's going to be a fresh take on Transformers, hopefully.
A lot of fresh takes going around.
Yeah, no, or just rehashes. But it's undergoing reshoots based on test audiences. And I thought to myself, why are people still doing that? That always ends up worse.
Because they get the weird kind of people who want to spend their time reviewing movies before they come out and giving their feedback. Right.
The only time you should ever do a public screening and then rewrite the movie based on what those people think is if all of the audience is made up of Nando from Nando v Movies.
Yeah, he'd be pretty handy to have in a bloody test audience.
Wouldn't he? Just like 100 of them.
They should really get that guy in as a consultant. Every time I watch one of his videos and he talks about his little fixes, I'm just like, that's so clean. That's so...
Yeah, I know. He like does what we do, but without the rambling and much more coherent.
Oh, he's so succinct and intelligent.
Oh, it's brilliant. I know.
Nando, please throw us a bone and give us an L retweet there.
Don't sound desperate, Ben.
No, but he's very... I was very thirsty there. Sorry, Nando.
Very thirsty.
But he's very succinct in how he wraps them up. Like, I would seriously have that guy on board. I would just let him go through your script and say, no, you need to do this with this.
Yeah, but also, you know, he generally does it about 2 or 3, let's say 2 months after he has seen the thing.
Yeah.
Which, no, I think that's great, but I don't think Hollywood works on that time scale. I think everyone's so cocaine fueled, they just go, okay, start filming it now.
That's really weird. I didn't know that you spent time in Hollywood, directly recording them.
So
that's
realistic.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Benjamin.
Speaking of weird, actually, sorry, just because you've jogged my memory upon jogging your own.
Go on.
You recently pointed out to me, Michael, there was going to be a Silver Sable movie. As a spin-off of Sony. Do you know what I recently found out, Michael? Do you know what's coming out to add to our unwanted Spider-Man spin-offs?
Go on.
Morbius, the living vampire.
Oh no.
Is getting his own movie.
Well, is he?
No, he is.
Ben, for one thing, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the Black and Silver, the Silver Sable and Black Cat spin-off has been removed from Fox's slate.
That's good. That's good.
Which I think is a real relief.
Wise decision.
Yeah. They're still working on a script. You know, script comes first. We have to invent a story about these two unrelated characters, and I don't know. We just want to do a spin-off.
Yeah, so because they still have the access to those rights. Anyway, Michael. In other news, what have you got?
Yes.
What have you got?
Oh, yeah, very good. That really sounded like you were going to say something.
No.
Cloak and Dagger is out next week, Ben. We're looking forward to that.
Are we?
No.
It's on a streaming service, Michael.
I know.
Could we care less, Michael?
I don't know if we're going to even be able to see it. Ben, I think we might bring back... Remember our most popular segment ever? Mick watches the Inhumans.
Yes.
I think we might bring that back for Cloak and Dagger. I think Cloak and Dagger is going to be in that level of quality. I think it's going to be one of those things where you don't care, the audience don't care, and I got a kind of perverse enjoyment from making you listen anyway.
Yeah, that was a weird fetish that you developed. But look, who am I to judge? Have your weird fetish, Michael.
I will.
I don't think it's going to be very good, Michael. I don't think it's going to... I just don't see it floating my boat. Speaking of streaming services, Michael, Netflix have officially announced their first comic book with Mark Millar.
Stop the lights.
Yep, it's been officially announced. It has its own little trailer online. You can take a look at it. It's a motion comic based around it.
And it's full of emotions.
What would you say? Yes, it's full of emotions. You're a fan of the StormWatch, of the Authority.
Yes, I was.
What would you say about the shaman character? What's his role in all that, Michael?
The Doctor.
Yeah.
He is a magic man. He does magic. He's like, I'm a magic man.
Yeah. What does he do, Michael? What's his deal?
Sometimes he's a drugs man. He's a drugs taker man.
Yeah. But what's his express purpose as the shaman? What does he do apart from magic?
Oh, he protects the earth.
There we go.
He's like Doctor Strange, basically.
Very nice. Good. What would you say the main plot of Wanted is? The Mark Millar
Angelina Jolie.
Not the movie, Michael. The comic book.
Oh, I can't remember. Supervillains team up and kill all the heroes.
Nice one. What would you say the plot of...
I feel I've been led down a path
Marvel's The Ultimates Volume 2 is?
Ultimates Volume 2? I can't remember.
Maybe it's Volume 3. It could be Volume 3, where all the villains team up and beat the heroes.
Oh, yeah. Where all the villains team up and beat the heroes.
Yeah, or that's perhaps Kick-Ass 2, where all the villains team up and beat the heroes. I mean, you can really take any Mark Millar story, is what I'm getting at here, and say
I'm with you now.
That everyone gets their ass kicked when all the villains team themselves up. And the reason I brought up the shaman at the start is Netflix's first comic collaboration with Mark Millar is called The Magic Order, and it's about the 4 prime magicians from magic families.
Optimus Prime.
And how they defend the Earth. And then all of a sudden there's a mysterious cabal that is joined together and is beating Earth's oldest, mightiest defense in terms of magic. So it was very reminiscent of a little bit of Warren Ellis, a little bit of Mark Millar's favourite bloody trope, where, look what happens when villains get together and kick ass.
Villains do a team up.
Yeah, he's been writing that story forever. Old Man Logan is the same. I recently reread Old Man Logan. Jesus Christ, it's bad. It's so bad.
I don't like it, man.
It's such a bad comic. The Jeff Lemire one is pretty good, but the original that launched that whole spin-off, Christ, it's bad. But yeah, it was interesting to me. So he's rehashing old black top hats. Ba-dum-bum.
Have you read it?
No, it's not out yet. The trailer has been released. It will be released next week.
No, very good.
Week. And I will read it. what I have read
Go
is
on.
the new StormWatch from Warren Ellis.
There's a new StormWatch from Warren Ellis.
Yeah, the StormWatch is what it's called. 14 issues in so far. 14 very good issues. Proper return
the
to
lights,
form
Benjamin,
for the
really?
StormWatch. Yeah, you need to get on that, man. I meant to say it to you. I read it this week. Very good. It's a reboot.
Is there a collected edition I could read?
Yes, there are. There are trade paperbacks available of the first 2 volumes because it's only on issue 14. It will be 24 issues long. It has a set runtime because it's Warren Ellis.
I like that, Ben.
God bless him, Warren Ellis. So there's 24 issues. It's currently on 14, so there's 10 left to go.
That's very exciting, Ben. I'll get that this week.
It's very good. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when we mentioned that Jenny Quantum was getting a reboot?
No.
Well, we did. And
Ben, I don't listen to this podcast. I make the bloody thing.
Fair enough. That's the reboot. Anyway, she's in it as Jenny. She's Jenny Sparks again.
Jenny Sparks is back.
Yeah, she's back, but she's a digital lady this time.
She's a digital lady.
We've done away with Jenny Quantum, but the
Does she
art
still
is
smoke a cigarette?
She's still horses in the fags. Still horses in the fags. Very good. The shaman is a woman this time. There's a bit of
The Doctor. Is it not the Doctor?
I thought it was the shaman. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was the Doctor.
Oh, it could be the Doctor.
That sounds like Doctor Who.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Anyway, she's back. And we've done away with the bloody bird lady. She's not in it.
Oh, no, Swift.
Yeah, Swift is gone, which is good. It's very good, Michael. I'd give it a watch.
Well, it's StormWatch, though. It's not the Authority. It's StormWatch.
No, it's a mix of both, though, because Jenny Sparks... The Apollo and the Midnighter haven't appeared yet, but he's introducing characters in his own time.
So it's StormWatch. And is it in the DC universe, Ben?
No, it's not. It's in the StormWatch verse. It's very interesting. All those different factions are kind of fighting each other. The demons that Voodoo deals with, you know, that demon alien race thing.
The Kremen.
I couldn't tell you. They're in it as well. Like it's all his old stuff that he did.
The old stuff is back
for the Wildstorm imprint.
That's very exciting.
And he's rebooted, and it's very clean, Michael. It's very good. And the art is fantastic. I give it an old read over, and we'll do a quick review of it next week because I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as an avid fan. Because it was very big in the 90s, Michael.
Whoa, Ben. Watch with the avid fan talk. Because if I was an avid fan, I would know this already.
Okay, you're not that avid a fan. Fair enough.
No, I used to be an avid fan.
You've inspired me with your little weekly comic roundup at the moment. I'm getting back into my comics big time. So yeah, well done. Well done,
Ben,
Michael. Yes.
Speaking of things which were popular in the 90s.
Boom.
Very good. Did you see the Jamie Foxx news?
Jamie Foxx is going to be playing a Knight of Hell. Michael. He's going to be playing a Knight of Hell. He's going to be playing the bloody Spawn. It's not the Spawn, it's just Spawn. But
the Hell Spawn.
The
Ben,
Hell Spawn.
Do you feel confident about that, or do you feel somewhat apprehensive, like you should?
I'm a tremendous Jamie Foxx fan. I think Mr. Fox brings a lot of oomph to things that he's in. He's a very silly man, but I think he does. I think he does a good job. I think he brings a nice energy to things. And if you're going to play a Knight of Hell, you may as well do it a bit silly. But unfortunately, Jamie Foxx's Spawn apparently. Jamie Foxx will not be on screen that much.
I think that's always a good thing, Ben. Do you remember The Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yes, with Electro.
Yes, Jamie Foxx appeared to be in the wrong film. I don't think he knew I do not trust Jamie Foxx as an actor. I think sometimes he gets it right.
Yeah, and then sometimes...
And when he gets it right, he's amazing. Yeah. But he's often the worst thing in a movie.
He can be. I think that's very true, actually. But yeah, Todd McFarlane came out this week and said...
Yeah, congratulations. It's about time that he faced up to the reality and just admitted that he preferred men.
Well, he's been drawing big, muscular men in chains for years. You think
that's true? Actually,
would have been a bloody. You think that would have been a bloody red flag? But yeah, McFarlane, who is set to write and direct the upcoming film, he's
not a good idea, Ben, is it?
No, it's going to be awful.
Ben, can I just point out, Sin City 2 is what happens when you let comic book writers direct movies.
Oh, I can't even remember Sin City 2. I think I blocked it out.
Eva Green was in it.
Who was in it?
Eva Green.
Was she?
She was the dame to kill for. Dame to die for.
Oh.
Yeah, it was no good.
I remember it not being very good. I
Really.
remember Sin City 1 being quite an interesting experiment, but I don't think number 2 made it out. But yeah, so he's kind of said that he wants it out of superhero mode. He wants to jog audiences out of superhero mode, and he has described the movie as a creep movie. Where
Ben, isn't it always worrying when someone starts describing their movie in terms of what it isn't?
Yeah, look, I'm not optimistic, Michael. I'm not the hugest Spawn fan.
Hold on, Ben. I've just come up with a joke.
Go on.
Don't worry, Ben. Everything will be fine.
Oh.
Optimistic Prime.
Oh.
Just thought of that there. I'm sure the movie will be perfectly serviceable. It would be funnier if my Optimus Prime impression was any
Not
good.
unlike the Autobots.
Exactly.
Perfectly serviceable.
What were you saying there before I interrupted you for a terrible joke?
I'm not the hugest fan of Spawn as a concept.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of Todd McFarlane anyway. The world has moved firmly on from the 90s, and he has not.
That's your opinion, Ben. When are you from?
I'm from the 90s.
Exactly.
Michael, but I have to admit I don't really remember all that much of them, seeing as I was born in 91 and came to fruition throughout that time.
Fruition.
So
You just described yourself as having had come to fruition. What does that mean?
well, I mean, that's for you and the listeners to find out, Michael.
No.
Anyway, Spawn for me is an interesting character and kind of really the epitome of everything that I dislike about 90s comics.
Go on.
In that, go on, ask me the question there, Michael. Go on.
Ben, in as neutral a way as possible to start for the first couple of minutes, what even is Spawn?
Nice. So Spawn was created in 1992.
Wow,
he
that's
was
before you.
No, it was after me. I'm 91.
Oh, okay.
And he was one of the main headliners in Image Comics when that offshot. He came over to Image Comics and kind of headlined
Spawn.
a lot of their stuff. Spawn.
Savage Dragon.
Savage Dragon. Yeah. So very 90s, very muscular. Bit of monster men in muscular tank tops doing monster muscular men things. Say that's 17 times drunk. And he's okay. So this is the most 90s backstory ever. Al Simmons was a mercenary who only did his job until one day he couldn't. I won't kill those kids. You have to, Al. I won't do it. You have to, Al. And then basically, the mercenary guy that hired him killed him.
No good.
Is
it Jason Wynn?
Jason Wynn. Very good, Michael. Very good, Michael. Jason Wynn, who was the mercenary money bank, basically the bankroller for this mercenary operation, head of a mercenary organization himself. Has him done away with because he grows a conscience. Now, I should point out that despite being an international mercenary, he has a family and a child in Det America, and he's trying to balance his life as a murdering mercenary with that of being a loving husband and father.
Very good.
So it's very odd. More interestingly, Spawn is actually black. Which I know doesn't seem to bear that much interest, but in 1992, it's quite interesting to have such a strong leading black character in a comic book series. But that doesn't really bear much. Anyway, after that, he's resurrected by now I'm going to get this wrong. Malvozio?
Malboglia?
I don't know how to say his name. Anyway,
Malvolia?
he's pretty much. He's Image's answer to Mephisto from Marvel Comics.
Some sort of Satan.
It's not quite the Satan, but it is a Satan.
Very good.
And he's resurrected to be his knight on Earth, his emissary on Earth. And he has a handler called the Violator, who's a big clown.
Do you have a handler, Ben?
I do. Her name is Sarah. She's very nice. She's busy at the moment. She just had an operation, so we've sent her flowers, and hopefully she gets better and she can send us back on missions to bring hell to Earth soon. But anyway, he comes back up. He gets all the superpowers, goes on a little revenge spree, and then realizes that he's being used for nefarious purposes, and that moral compass that he's grown in the Earth thing comes back, and he becomes a hero character, I suppose.
a classic 90s anti-hero.
Yeah, massively. Like Marvel, sorry, not Marvel at all. He's a 90s anti-hero in the sense that he commits large amounts of violence, but he's a psychopath with a heart of gold. I think is how you'd look at it. For me, he's ridiculous. He's a very ridiculous big. He's got a big full body suit. You know, when he's not wearing his demon powers, he's horribly disfigured. Very Deadpool. When he's unsuited and booted.
Does he? Who came first?
Good question. I think Spawn came first. But to be
he's
fair,
a selfish lover.
No. Actually, I think you could be right. Actually, I think. Very good joke.
There you go.
Didn't catch up.
That
took a while. I actually think Deadpool might have come first, because he's very much Liefeld inspired. I think we can't really talk about this character without looking at the influence that Rob Liefeld had on 90s comics. He really shaped that whole thing. Even in terms of storytelling, when Liefeld came along, storytelling in comics took a new turn.
Go on.
And what I mean by that is we started doing very much the in medias res kind of way of looking at stories. So we start in the middle, and then you kind of get drip-fed.
College boy.
Yeah, fair enough. And then you get drip-fed little facts. So his first Deadpool came first. His first appearance was in 1991 in New Mutants 98. He faced off against Cable and the gang. But Cable, I suppose, could be seen as the start of this really muscular, super strong male comic book character who loves an L gun, who loves an L pouch.
Does Spawn have a gun?
And Spawn occasionally uses guns, absolutely. Depends on what he feels like doing. He's a former mercenary, so guns, I suppose, are second nature to him. And what happens is we start getting fed stories where a character just turns up. We don't actually get given that much information, and all of a sudden we get like little tidbits. So a good example of that is the very first issue of Spawn, where we're introduced to Spawn taking out some real bad eggs.
Probably Asians.
Possibly an Asian, possibly a Latino.
Very good.
Two classic 90s villain stereotypes there. And he takes those out, and mid scrap, he has a flashback of his wife. But he doesn't actually know who he is at the time. He's not sure who he is.
Is he Spawn already?
He's Spawn already, so we start as Spawn.
Oh, very good.
We start as Spawn and work our way back. See, that's what in medias res means, Michael.
I know, Ben.
Yeah, it's for the listeners. It's for the listeners, Michael.
Well, tell the listeners then.
Sorry, listeners. I was just trying to fill you in. Jeez, Michael's moody today, listeners. If you think Michael is moody today, give us a comment down below. Tell him to cheer the fuck up.
Don't do that. Stop trying to internet bully me. If you think Ben's a racist, you should put a comment down below.
Put a comment down below. So Ben's a racist and Michael's a moody git. So that's what you can put down below. Both real bad eggs, let's face it. But anyway, that's kind of where it comes from. But overall, characterized by massive amounts of violence, lots of demonic, hellish imagery, big Satan thing. But it's just so over the top and ridiculous. He's a ridiculous character, and
you can clearly see from the Spawn art that Spawn himself basically spawned from Todd McFarlane drawing Spider-Man and Venom, right?
Oh yeah, he looks almost exactly the same. I mean, down to the eyes. The eyes are big and green in this case, but they have the Venom eyes. He has Venom eyes, where his little green eyes are inside the two big white spiral things.
And McFarlane was always kind of famous for both Spider-Man and Venom for intricate webbing.
Yeah, I mean, Todd McFarlane's his art, I think, is probably the most 90s thing that I can think of.
More 90s than roller disco.
More 90s. Well, actually, yes, possibly.
More 90s than the musical group 2 Unlimited.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. That's heavy 90s. But I think what's more interesting for me is that it's
more 90s than the Gulf War.
No, probably not. Maybe the Gulf War wins. But have you ever heard of Haunt?
No.
Okay, so Haunt was another Todd McFarlane one that he did for Image. Almost the exact same thing, but even more Spider-Man-y. So I'm going to send you a picture of Haunt,
right.
And it's really ridiculous, because it's just kind of silly, really.
Right, where is it? Where's the picture?
I'm sending it to you now, Michael. Settle down.
Okay.
Great podcasting as usual, top class. But yeah, so Spider-Man has all his webbing and stuff like that. And Haunt was a white-suited version who was a former mercenary working for a spy agency that died and got mysteriously resurrected with demonic powers. So
look, it's like Spider Spawn.
Yeah, it's very similar to. It's almost like an anti-venom costume. But Haunt is ridiculous, and that isn't webbing that you can see. Those are just tendrils of ectoplasm that he can shape into different things, but looks very, very, very like webbing. But it's just interesting that you mentioned his famous intricate webbing and how popular that was with viewers. Because if you want to take a look at what the intricate webbing looks like, here's another example for you, which is kind of silly.
Are you sending this to me again? Okay,
yeah,
right. Well, these are going to have to go in the video now, aren't they?
They are. But, I mean, take a look at that webbing around the help. Like, that's webbing by any other name.
Ben, it looks like jizz.
It doesn't look a bit.
It looks like he has wanked himself into oblivion and he's left a message in jizz for someone to bring him a glass of water.
Can that please be the name of this episode? Wanked into oblivion.
That
Spawn,
is ridiculous.
The Spawn story.
And this is Haunt. And is Haunt part of the Spawn comic book universe?
Part of the Spawn universe, part of McFarlane's little universe. But, like, I mean, McFarlane clearly isn't a very original soul.
Hey.
No, he's just he's rebooting the same characters, Michael. I won't have it. But yeah, same thing. The only interesting thing here is that the guy that dies, basically, the soldier that dies, becomes a ghost, and his brother is a priest, and his brother's an unhappy priest because 90s
all the
comics
kids got away from him.
Yeah, well, yeah, all the kids got away, basically. But anyway, what his brother does is he possesses him, and then they become Haunt together. So it's like a symbiote thing.
Genuinely shoots ectoplasm. Like webbing. That's bizarre.
Yeah, it's bizarre, and it's very lazy. Again, some of the things that characterize Spawn, I think, and some of the things that make him super 90s is all that anti-religious imagery.
Very good. Go on.
That was so popular. Especially, it was so edgy to take down the Catholic Church back in the day. I always find it really entertaining when you take a look at things like The Darkness with Jackie Estacado or Witchblade or whatever. They're all demonically powered heroes or anti-heroes.
Yeah, a lot of demons in the 90s.
Yeah, they were big. And for some reason, the kind of forces of heaven are always the more evil by the end of the series.
They're very right-wing, basically.
Exactly. And I find that fascinating. That's such a trope in the 90s comic book scene, where it's like you get a lot of religious zealots and zealots, I was about to say. Zealots and things like that. And again, they're always shown to be the real bad. But who's the real bad egg? Is it me for commanding a host of demonic massacring imps? Or is it you for carrying out the Lord's will? And it's always the Lord's will.
Yeah, that is interesting, actually. The Image guys really didn't like Heaven.
No, they were really against it. Heaven is always kind of shown as this kind of Terminator-style angel character.
Exactly, kind of authoritarian.
Yeah, that just takes no guff.
One way for things to be right. Yeah, exactly. Well pointed out there, Ben. You're a font of opinions.
Yeah. Anyway, for me, obviously this is all retrospective research because I wasn't very, very independent and capable of reading Spawn comics when they came out.
You were what about barely alive, let's be honest.
Let's be honest. What about you, Michael? You would have been a young lad of 15?
How old do you think I am?
I'm not sure.
I was 1990. I was 10 then in 1992.
You were 10. So you weren't reading Spawn comics when they came out then.
I was not reading Spawn comics. I was probably a little bit too young for it to be their target audience, Ben. But I was of the right age when the Spawn film came out.
Excellent segue, Michael. Excellent segue.
I know, wasn't that very good?
This should just be called Exquisite Segues, the podcast.
That's very good.
We should definitely just...
Sometimes it's dreadful segues, though.
Well, I mean, nobody expects us to get it right every time.
Yeah, for example, you've ruined this segue.
Sorry.
By talking about segues.
I ruined that segue by complimenting your segues. I'll just keep my mouth shut from now on, Michael.
No, Ben, that would be a very boring podcast. That would just be me asking you questions and you refusing to answer. Ben, I saw the film. I know. The film, there was a movie, Ben, a movie in 1997.
A movie?
Interestingly, remember a few weeks ago we were talking about how Black Panther was the first mainstream black superhero movie lead.
chiming in with the opinions of many other people who are not really as well informed.
Well, we disagreed because we kept going on about Blade, which was 2001 or 1999, and we forgot about Spawn, which was several years before that.
We did indeed. Spawn.
Because Spawn. Go on.
No. I just said Spawn.
Oh, you're just saying the word Spawn.
Just saying the word Spawn.
Because the Spawn movie came out in 1997, and Michael J.
Michael J. Who's still very, busy. He still works away.
Still very busy. Yeah, he's a strong man. He was really popular contender to play Luke Cage.
Oh, he would have been. He would have been interesting.
He certainly had the look for a Luke Cage. I think he might be a bit too martial artsy because Luke Cage doesn't do them martial arts.
No, he's not a martial arts man.
That's an interesting thing, actually, in the movie, Ben.
Yes.
Look, it's not a great movie, Ben, and I, for some reason I had to watch it the other day, which is, look, it wasn't very unpleasant. Often when I'm watching movies for this podcast, I really don't want to, and I kind of just mumble about how much I hate you while I'm watching it, going, fucking Ben, why wasn't he watching it? Why do I have to watch this stupid movie?
Because this was your idea for a podcast, Michael.
I know. The movie it's not unwatchable. It's all right. Yeah. It's pretty far from good. But it's all right. Good. It's the same basic setup, but this time we first meet him as Al Simmons, mercenary. And because it's Michael J. White, you have to get some martial arts in. So he enters the screen. Our introduction to him is him flying onto screen, doing a flying kick onto an Asian man because he's attacking North Korea. And then
what?
It's brilliant. So he's attacking a North Korean terrorist, and he blows everybody up.
That's
and everything.
Very progressive for a 90s film.
North Korea, yeah.
It used to be Russians.
It's very interesting.
It's usually a Russian.
Yeah, no, North Koreans. Although, as it turns out, again, what's his name? I said it when you were talking, but I've
Jason
forgotten.
Wynn.
Jason Wynn is the bad guy. He's played by Martin Sheen.
Yeah, great casting. No, you're right.
Yes, Martin
you're right.
Sheen.
You're absolutely right.
He's played by Martin Sheen, playing him as Charlie Sheen.
He does channel his son, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's dreadful. The dyed black beard and the dyed black hair.
He's so villainous.
He's such a villain.
Did you ever?
It's really like, Michael, can you do Charlie? And he's like, yeah, of course I can. I'm the bad guy now.
Yeah,
it's bonkers.
Did you ever see Community?
Go on.
Did you ever see Community?
Of course, yeah.
With Abed and his evil dimension thing where he sticks on the little felt beard.
Yes.
To show that he's evil
like
Abed.
That.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. It's exactly like that.
He's so evil, and he has an evil. Do you know Melinda Clarke?
No, I'll look her up now though.
Yeah, you know her from being an older, sexy lady. If you're doing a TV show like, let's say, Castle or CSI or something.
Oh yes, Melinda Clarke.
And you need an older, sexy lady love interest.
Yes.
She's the go-to. If you need someone who's close to 50 but sexy, that's who you get.
Yes, she was the MILF in the OC for 4 years.
I have never seen the OC, but yeah.
And you never
probably.
should. You never should. It's terrible.
Good. I'll try to avoid it. One of the biggest crimes this movie makes is they have her in sexy leathers, and somehow she's not sexy, even though she's only about 28.
Oh wow, that must be some really bad leather.
It's just some bad. Oh, the hair is the worst. But anyway, I think they gave her terrible hair to match the action figure.
Oh God!
Look, one of the big problems with the movie is, well, there are two major problems. I'm not going to get into the plot. The plot's the same. He has a crisis of conscience. Then they kill him, and he comes back with a deal from Malboglia. Malboglia in the movie is voiced by Frank Welker.
Oh,
Megatron.
Look at him.
So that's our second Transformers reference of the day.
Okay.
You can go back to Earth, Simmons, but you have to be my emissary.
And he's like, okay, I'll do it if I can see my wife. And he goes back to Earth. And probably what I think is kind of disappointing about it is they so close to had the technology to make this movie work, but they didn't quite. The Spawn costume looks pretty good, but it's still a big, thick 90s foam rubber suit.
Yeah, you can see the bulletproof element of it.
You can see, yeah, like it's very thick, it's very padded, and they have Michael J. White, and he's an agile man, but he's not doing anything in that suit.
How's his neck movement?
He's clambering around awkwardly.
How's his neck movement?
Very limited neck movement.
Yeah.
He's not doing a high kick, Ben. That's for sure. Nobody gets once he's in the necroplasm. Nobody gets high kicked again.
It's very classic Power Rangers villain kind of styrofoam monstrosity thing.
Yeah. Now it's not like it looks good. It looks like Spawn. The head's too big and it's too thick. And they'll really be able to do it better in the modern world.
Unless they over CGI.
Possibly.
Like, who's making the film? I don't even know who's making the new one.
Blumhouse, Ben.
Blumhouse. Ah, okay.
Blumhouse.
So
I watched Insidious Chapter 4 last night by Blumhouse.
Do you enjoy an Insidious?
I enjoy one especially is a very good film. The others are your traditional horror. They're all right.
Is Blumhouse the one with all the spin-offs about the paranormal investigator?
Yeah.
Or sorry,
Blumhouse.
Blumhouse.
Name a horror movie from the last 10 years, and it's probably Blumhouse.
Okay, so they do the L Sinisters, they do the L Splits, they do a Purge.
Yeah. Well, look at Blumhouse's lineup for 2017. I think it was Get Out.
Yeah, I can see it here.
Split,
actually.
and Happy Death Day. Get Out and Split and Happy Death Day are three great, tonally completely different, three great movies.
In that case, Michael, we could get a decent Spawn out of this.
Well, look, Blumhouse has been nominated for Best Picture Oscar twice.
Well, that's nothing to sniff at from a horror.
And the other thing, Ben, is Blumhouse are kind of famous. Their methodology is low budget. That's their stated technique.
Okay.
They want to make maximum profit on low budget movies, and their movies are generally budgeted around 3, 4, 5 million.
Nice.
And then make 125 million.
Wow.
So,
okay,
I mean,
that's a return on investment, Michael.
Blumhouse are serious players. I think Blumhouse might be the saving grace of this.
So, do we think that there's going to be a negotiation in the future where we kind of try and edge Todd into a backseat position while we get an actual director in?
I'd say they won't even do it. They'll just have an actual director directed and let Todd be credited because it'll be cheaper and everyone will be happy.
And Todd's ego will stay intact because he's an egomaniac.
I don't know the man. I don't know if he is an egomaniac.
He's a bit of an egomaniac, a bit of a dick.
To be any sort of high level creative, you have to be a bit of an egomaniac.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that now. I don't know whether I'd agree with you on that one.
The other big problem in the movie is the CG.
Oh.
Large sections of the movie are almost completely CG, and it's very 90s.
Is it rough?
It looks like the CG of an alt-right YouTube video.
Oh, Jesus.
It's lots of flames, lots of demons.
Jesus.
Cackling. It's weak. And if this Spawn movie is going to be a $10 million movie where Spawn is kind of a mysterious, spooky side character,
yes,
I think then we'll be spared that sort of
a lurker. That'll be interesting. I think
Have you? Go on.
No, sorry. You had a point. You had a question. Go on. Ask me the question.
Ben, is there anything Spawn related you do like?
Well, I quite like. He's an interesting character. I think in terms of he broke a lot of molds when he was introduced because he has. It's very interesting. One of Spawn's powers is shapeshifting. And initially when he gets his abilities, he doesn't have any control of them. Classic kind of superhero move. And his body subconsciously kind of shapeshifts sometimes, especially when he's around normal people. It takes on a shape that's more appealing to normal people, and he has no control over it. But he becomes a white man for the first arc of his run.
What?
And it causes massive identity issues in him as a black man. He has a moment of breakdown. He becomes a white guy for the first 6 issues. And his inner dialogue is completely tormented by this. He keeps saying like, I'm a black man, you can't like, and he keeps trying to figure out his powers so he can at least go back to being black. But he's white for the first 6 issues.
That's bonkers.
Oh, it's bizarre.
Does he shapeshift into a white person, or is he given a white person's body by hell?
His body subconsciously shapeshifts into a white person. This is the interesting thing, and he doesn't want it at all. He keeps trying to go back. But it's interesting from that point of view. You know, he has a lot of dignity as a character, which is an odd thing to say about any 90s character.
Take that, the 90s.
But
take that, the music group 2 Unlimited.
I think one of the more interesting things about Spawn is that he inspired kind of an interesting wave of, like I said, demonically powered villains. Jackie Estacado, The Darkness came out a little bit after that, and he was a big hit for Image as well. But I also
was
think
he not Dark Horse?
No, he was Dark Horse. He was Top Cow. Remember Top Cow?
Top Cow, yes,
and then
that's who it was.
Image bought them and amalgamated them in.
Very good.
Yeah, so he's a Darkness character now. You see him pop up every once in a while in one of the big Invincible crossovers.
Yes, him and Witchblade.
Him and Witchblade, just they do a little. Pit was another character that came out there. Pit was the young boy who could turn into kind of a giant demonic Hulk thing.
Yeah, one of the best action figure Build-A-Figures of all time.
Yeah, I would say he was quite cool, all right.
Yeah, very cool.
But I think, he inspired a whole wave of heroes. And more importantly, he showed us what not to do when you're creating a character a little bit down the line. So the 90s was a different time. It was exceptionally violent. America was in a different political state. It was a bit messy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he reflects all that crap, as usual. Grim and gritty New York, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's also he's a very poor example of what it is to be a hero, and he, I think, it's just so over the top and kitsch, and you can kind of spot annoying people by how much they love Spawn.
Ben, they're probably going to post this onto the Spawn fans Reddit. I hope they eat you alive.
They will eat me alive, and that's fine. But I think the other thing that is kind of educational for me, at least, is that he's still very popular.
Yeah.
So every time I think I have stuff like that figured out, there's still a huge demographic that really enjoys that type of comic book.
Did you ever see the HBO animated series, Ben?
No, I didn't.
I think you would like it, Ben. It's artistically, stylistically very similar to the Batman animated series. It has that look of that it was animated on black paper.
Oh, okay, so it's super dark.
It's super dark. It's very noir.
Oh, okay.
And although one of the worst things about it is that there's a live action intro from Todd McFarlane before the episodes, which is absolutely hilarious.
Oh,
him walking around the creepy room rearranging plastic snakes. But that doesn't... Classic Todd. But also, as it goes on, it starts to move into kind of what the direction that the movie might take into being Spawn is kind of sidelined a little bit.
He's a secondary.
And it becomes and it becomes a detective show about Sam and Twitch, two New York detectives.
Okay, that's interesting.
Who kind of end up dealing with the fallout of Spawn-related stuff. No, not entirely. It's still Spawn's show, but these two supporting characters become much more important.
Well, it's easier to relate to them, I suppose, than a big demonic entity. Do you think it's going to be a Mad Max-style thing where Max isn't actually the most important character?
The movie, I think that's absolutely the best way to handle it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so we'll look.
Like Ben.
We're not mega
sorry
optimistic.
To interrupt.
Go on.
Look, I think it might. A lot like what we were saying would be a good way to handle Moon Knight in a Moon Knight series that he kind of is, because Moon Knight is too crazy to be a main character, so he would be good as a kind of floating around enemy, scary, spooky, scaring and spooking people sort of guy.
Yeah. So, in conclusion, what we're really saying here is Blumhouse, just figure out a way to quietly nudge Todd off the director's seat and give it to Mick and Ben's podcast. We'll take care of it for you.
Movies.
Or Nando V Movies. Look, let's get in touch with Nando. Let's get a partnership going here. Let's
not the chicken restaurant.
No. Well, I mean, if Nando's wants to sponsor the creative, that's fine. Nando's Chicken Place, if you're listening, Nando from Nando V Movies. Look, we'll get this together. We'll work for Blumhouse. We'll knock it out of the park. We'll make a great film.
And we'll let Todd McFarlane take all the credit.
We just want a little link to the podcast at the end credits. That's all we want. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think of Spawn? Did you grow up with Spawn? Did you have any? Do you have a long-lasting love affair with Spawn? Is he your go-to 90s guy?
Have you ever spelt the words help out in Jizzed?
Yeah, if you have, please seek medical help. There will be a number at the end of the video that you can call. It's 1-800
your mobile number.
1-800 I'm sticky. So deal with that. What do you think of companies like Netflix starting their own comic book companies? How do you think that's going to go? And more importantly, are you looking forward to Cloak and Dagger? We bet you're not.
Yeah, tweet us at Mick and Ben your Cloak and Dagger reactions next week.
Absolutely. And let us know if you can think of any other ridiculous examples of 90s anti-heroes. Let us know down below.
Cable.
Cable is a good example, but he's done to death now at this point. Anyway, that's all from us for this week. Oh, Grifter's great. He's back in the reboot, and he's a great character, Michael. Anyway, bye.
Bye.